Sweet 16 week, take after take. Was that dramatic enough or no?
That was dramatic. I got to get my timer set for our commercial breaks.
Man, you ain't doing a timer. So those that listened last week, he's buying, yachts and mansions and stuff on his phone and stuff.
Inspections.
Wolf of Wall Street. That's what you at now? Inspections?
We're in inspections. So here we go.
I ain't mad at you, dog. Just hold on. Let a brother hold a little something.
Listen, you're going to have to let me hold something by the time all this is over with. You going to help me move, by the way?
Can't do that. I got this bad eyebrow here. It's fractured, so I can't help you. I'm on
them legs work, don't they?
No, they're not. No, that's the problem. Leg, back, knees, everything on week 42. Take after take. Producer Pat, Carl Prather. We are back yet again for another podcast live stream for those that are watching at home all across this wonderful world. And more importantly, those that listen to our podcast each and every week. We thank you yet again as we continue to try to build this platform. Patrick, we are in Sweet 16 mode for the men and women in the NCAA men's and NCAA women's basketball tournaments. Before we kind of dive into matchups later in the show, let's just walk us through just quick takeaways. It could be on the court, it could be off the court, whatever it may be for the men and women.
I think it's what everyone is talking about, right? It is the maybe proverbial death of the mid-major.
Yeah, man. It's getting dark out there.
Some of these games, it happened fast, too, didn't it? Like, within the first 90 seconds, you were like, oh, this is going to be a blowout. But, like, we have all higher seeds advancing, basically.
Yeah, and the Cinderella, as I heard, I think John Calipari mentioned, the Cinderella's got Jimmy Choo's on, Prada outfit. Yeah. All that is the 10 seed in Arkansas, who literally has probably 5 to 7 of their guys that will play some professional basketball somewhere, NBA, overseas, or anywhere in this country. So, yeah, chalk was chalk as we went into this second weekend. I do agree. We were discussing this on Monday. I am interested, once we have a larger sample size, of what the world of mid-majors look like relative to NIL. We are on the cusp of, in the month of April, to have maybe some solidify collective bargaining, I guess, from the Supreme Court to be able to rule down what this is going to look like. But I will say for you and for those that love college basketball, we potentially could be seeing the last of deep runs within mid-majors, unless your pockets are deep enough that you're able to be able to pay for a roster for a season or multiple seasons thereafter. You mentioned it. It was relative to maybe the last 15 years. I was always the guy that always would say in men's and women's college basketball, you always are, the best players on the best teams are always going to win. Now, your best players can be anywhere in the world of Power 4 basketball. And for all we know, there could be a year or two where some group of folks, a collective or something of that nature, decide to say, hey, we're going to go all in for basketball and we're going to pay, money out of the wazoo for 7 guys to come here or 7 women to come here, and you have a run. But at the end of the day, it's going to be high caliber players. So I don't know. I am... I guess we can say hold out hope. We want the best product available, but I will say that it just does not seem like we will have as many Cinderellas as we've normally had back in the 80s when the tournament really kind of took off during its inception as the field of 64 and 85 once it increased the number of teams. So, yeah, Patrick, I don't know, man. All of those games that you mentioned, I had Lipscomb. Shout out to Lenny Acuff and company up at Lipscomb in Nashville. I had them reaching the Sweet 16. They got blitzed early in the game. San Diego, trendy pick for so many fans that wanted to fill out a bracket. They got blitzed. They were knocked out. The Michigan Wolverines, now in the Sweet 16. I don't think anyone maybe predicted that Michigan would go this far. But then you look, what's the tale of their season? Here's Dusty May, former Florida Atlantic coach that reached the Final Four, but he has Wolf at the center position that came from Yale, who 2 years ago helped beat Auburn there and made his presence felt. I believe Jeff Goodman had it on Monday, Patrick. I think as of Monday, there was over 500 men's basketball players in the transfer portal. I can go on my notifications with X and social media accounts and just see it's almost every other minute somebody is entering the portal. And we're talking about your high caliber guys are still currently playing. You know, your Cooper Flags of the world, whatever, he's going to go to the NBA. But like Donovan Dent, for a prime example, Donovan Dent played at New Mexico under Richard Pitino, who all likelihood appears he's going to head to Xavier to join the Big East alongside his dad and play in that conference at St. John's. But Donovan Dent may be the best player in the portal. No disrespect to Donovan Dent because he is fantastic. But you're paying for guys right now that are in the portal that how much life do they change for you, if that makes any sense? But does it change it enough so that you can have a dominant year and win a game or two or get into the second weekend? Is that viable enough for you to say, hey, I'm going to put all my eggs in the basket to be able to do that? The kid at Drake followed his coach. They're at Iowa now, and he's a heck of a player from Drake. So, listen, you're just going to have to pony up, and it's going to be the have and have-nots. And I think we've noticed that and understand that throughout all of college athletics, most notably in football. That's kind of one of been the biggest sport on center stage. But this is going to be for all sports once we kind of find out what this looks like here in the month of April and May.
Are you worried that maybe through all this NIL deal that like the soul of college basketball and March Madness is going to be lost because we don't have those Cinderella teams?
No, I think something that we discussed earlier this week offline, I think the biggest thing with the men's game, what made the men's game awesome and what grew the sport were A, the Cinderellas, but B, said players that you could fall in love with. So we've discussed, ad nauseum, and I know so many people have discussed it with the NBA rule as far as players being able to be draft eligible. You can go to the league after a year. When I was growing up in the 90s, kids could go out and leave from high school until the NBA decided to implement that rule. But I'll say this. I think the Cinderella for the casual fan, but the diehard fan like you and I and college basketball fans just love sports and love college basketball, you're still going to watch the tournament because now, to me, you're going to continue to have high-level basketball. And that's for everyone. If you make the NCAA basketball tournament, the field of 68, I think because of guys transferring, guys moving outside of maybe the first 4 games, you're probably going to have 1 to 4 transfers that were not on your roster a year ago, which in turn, to me, relative to the great coaching in college basketball, I think coaching, players are one thing, but coaching is magnified in the college game for the men and the women. I think you're just going to see 1 to 4 guys that could change life for a program and potentially be able to get you to a second weekend or have one of those unbelievable runs down the stretch. So I think the only difference is that it now is going to force programs, whether you're and just blurting out names, whether you're a P4, whether you're in the MAC, the Horizon League, the Summit League, the West Coast Conference, no matter where you're at, you're going to be looking for guys that can maybe hopefully change life. Older guys that have played a season or 2 or even 3. A graduate guy that's literally more mature, went through the battles as far as, playing college basketball, high-level basketball now on your roster. And, if you're a fan of insert powerhouse team here and you're a 4 seed and you're playing the 13 and the 13 has 3 grad transfers, things could get a little hairy. And I think that's what can still continue the allure of the college game. For the women on the other side, I kind of envision women's college basketball like NASCAR was in the 90s and the early 2000s for me. So for those who are not fans of NASCAR, never watched NASCAR, know what it is, obviously, I will say that the one thing that NASCAR did that was incredibly impressive in the 90s and the early 2000s was marketability for their drivers. You always had their drivers, you could see their face, you know what they look like, but they always were marketed. You got to see them within the sport in the grand scheme of trying to push the sport moving forward as far as the viability of the sport. And I think the one thing about the women's game, while the women's game has just blew up, A, the quality of play is outstanding, which it has always been. B, your stars have become household names, and because of C, they've been able to stay in school long, and they're able to build their proverbial brands. Your Caitlin Clarks, your Juju at SC, prayers up to her with her injury and her recovery. But look at all of your players: Cameron Brink, the unbelievable Asia Wilson, Paige Beckers. You look at all of these young ladies across the country. they're bubbling before they even get to the W. And I think that's the really cool part, because I think that's where the game is kind of has moved them to because of their viability. So I think that's the balance with college basketball. We are still going to watch. It is still an important piece of the sporting calendar. But I am very interested to see how the quote-unquote have-nots, your mid-majors, adapt to being able to compete with your P4 and your powerhouse programs moving forward.
And I don't know if they're going to.
Yeah.
I don't. Like, you look at a team like Gonzaga, right, who has been sort of a March Madness staple for most of our lifetimes.
The first missed Sweet 16 in over a decade.
And I think that's the start of a run. I think it's over.
You think Gonzaga is over?
Because if you're looking, some of these numbers we're hearing from starters from P4s, these kids are making $500,000.
Yeah.
There is no way that Gonzaga has that kind of NIL pocketbook. And why would you not go if you're a kid, a star player? Even if you don't play on another P4 school, even if you just come off the bench.
But I think that's the thing that I keep going back to, though. All it takes is 1 to 3 young guys or young women that can change a life for a season, right? And to pony it up. Now, I will agree with you. I don't know this with Gonzaga and the incredible Mark Few. I don't know what is the long term of that? Is it 1 year? Is it 2 years? Can you continue to keep that up relative to what said prospect and or player brings to your program, and how much are you being able to generate and be able to generate in revenue with said player? I believe one of the top elite prospects for this class for the men is going AJ. I forgot it. I don't want to pronounce the young man's last name wrong, but he's going to BYU, and I think he got like $7 or $8 million.
Yeah, it's because BYU has deep pockets.
They have deep pockets, correct, and that is factually correct. I just wonder there. To me, I think if you are in that barrel of P4s and powerhouse programs in college basketball, there's going to be a niche there for some other programs that say, hey, we may not be able to afford $2 to $3 million for a roster, but we could do $775. And is that enough to be able to have your insert player of the year in a mid-major conference and 3 other guys that can help you and be able to make a deep run? I think you'll see more of that, and you'll be like, my goodness, this program reached the Elite 8. What? And then you look at the roster, and then you see, 7 of their 12 guys are from all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, it's even like you brought up at the beginning of the podcast, team like Arkansas.
Yeah.
One of the most expensive rosters in college basketball.
Yeah.
They just took them a minute to jail.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are picking them over Texas Tech. So we'll see. It's just, I think that was the glaring thing from this weekend was just, oh man, college basketball has changed, and it happened so fast. We talked about this in football. The change came so fast.
Yep.
And, you're watching, and everyone loves the Cinderella and the upsets, and, here we are in the Elite Eight, and it's all, for the most part, the Power 4 schools.
Now, what I will say, relative to as we were watching the college basketball season play out for the men and women, specifically the men, we just did not know if this would come to fruition once we got to week 2, Sweet 16, Elite 8, the regional round, if those teams would survive, right? Because we've seen other seasons where elite programs have not made it out of the first weekend. There's a reason why there's only been one time in the history of, since the tournament has expanded, that we only have 4 1 seeds in a Final Four. But we saw this from afar that, man, this league, this season, specifically, just had more top level elite programs and teams that appeared to, from a resume and portfolio standpoint, heading into this week, that they were, or this tournament, that were literally separated from everyone else. So I think a lot of it has to do with just the quality of teams. We mentioned, we discussed the SEC and the Southeastern Conference. I've had a handful of people. I remember I was telling my uncle, diehard Louisville basketball fan, and they had a great year. But he was just like, man, I don't know if the SEC is really that good. And I was like, well, we have to only base the SEC, the Southeastern Conference, on what their resume, relative to the season. Once you get to the tournament, we're just kind of projecting what we think from what we saw during the year. That's the only way that you can do it. And fast forward to this week, there's 7 of the 16 teams from the Southeastern Conference.
Yeah,
I mean, it's ridiculous. So I'll just say this, Patrick. It just goes back to me. that I do think that there is a niche if you're willing to pony up. I'm not saying you're going to have the pockets of a Southeastern Conference program or a Big Ten program, but I still believe that you could be able to formulate a plan to be able to be very active in said transfer portal to be able to build a roster, and not only build a roster, continue to make a run. I just don't believe it's as wide open as many people want to characterize the tournament as, that one shiny moment that we love to have. You may get it for a game, but I'm just discussing who can make some runs, and could you have a 9P4 program reach this weekend on a consistent basis? And I believe that you could, but it's all about resources, and are they willing to go all in for said sport? And think about this, Patrick. We don't know what this NCAA settlement is going to be once this comes down in April. Presumably it does happen in April, which everyone is kind of projecting to be. But if you're a mid-major program, and let's say that you have a football program and you have women's programs and other quote-unquote non-revenue men's program generating programs, there's going to be a point in a line in the sand that your administrators, your president, everyone's going to have to say to themselves, we have it, but we need to put it in one pocket, one bucket per se. Is it going to be all in on basketball? Are we going to have a monster budget for our basketball program, men's or women's? Is it going to be football? So there's going to be some have and have-nots that some other programs are not going to be as funded as well as maybe kind of quote-unquote your staple, your concrete, hardcore program that you're just going to go all in on. So that's the interesting part. But I do believe there's still a niche that you can see some of your mid-major quote-unquote programs that have some really solid quote-unquote pockets that can be able to compete in the NCAA tournament.
And all this talk about the death of the mid-major, all that stuff gets quieted down if all these games coming up tomorrow and Friday and Saturday and Sunday are just amazing.
Correct.
No one will talk about it.
And I don't know why. You just have to believe, i.e., listen, Rudy Niches for that team in Durham, Duke Blue Devils, played Arizona. That was a great game to start the first half of the season. They're playing again. I would find it hard-pressed that it's not a tight game. Kentucky, Tennessee. Kentucky did their job against Tennessee this season. Those games were great to watch, especially the game in Knoxville. It was a really nice game. Just we can look at the games. You can just tell. I would be surprised if anyone's going to run away with one of these games or blowout, and especially the regional final this weekend. I think there are going to be some classic games, and I think you're going to see some high-level basketball, and you just mentioned it. All of this can be silenced if you have quality games. And I ultimately think that you're going to have them.
Yeah. All right. Well, when we come back from the break, you want to actually dive into some of these games here?
Let's dive into some of the games. I don't even want to look at my bracket, but I really don't care about my bracket. I fill it out, but, I mean, let's be real. I'm always going to – it's always terrible. And you're lying to yourself if you think you had a really good bracket. You don't have a good bracket.
No. Nobody does anymore.
We do not.
All right. Take back after the break.
Take after take back here on the ones and twos. Producer Pat, yours truly, Carl Prather. We've discussed the NCAA tournament, just some moments during the tournament. I did want to mention with the women, the aforementioned Juju Watkins. Like, man, that just, it's terrible. She's a stud. She's a star. We hope that she has a speedy recovery. She's an unbelievable talent. The women's tournament has been great. I had an opportunity to watch a lot of their first and second round games over the weekend and on Monday. Really good games. I want to send a shout out to Alabama's women's basketball team. Sarah Ashley Barker.
A classic game.
It was a great. How about this? Outside of the Derek Queen buzzer beater for Michigan State over Colorado State on the men's side, right now I am going to say I watched that game. To me, that's been the game of the tournament. The entire tournament, men's or women's. I don't give a crap what you watch or what you do like or don't like. If you had an opportunity to watch that Alabama-Maryland game, that second round matchup, that was fantastic. Coach Christy Curry and her staff did an outstanding job. Went on a 14-0 run in that midway through that game. They led by as many as 17. And then Sarah Ashley Barker, 45 points, the fourth most all-time points in a single game in women's NCAA tournament history. She knocked out 3 free throws to force another overtime. Man, it had everything that you wanted. And if that was on the men's side, you know that this thing would be, we still be talking about it. But I know that those that just love basketball, forget if on the women or men's side, it was great. And Sarah Ashley did an outstanding job, as did the team, and unbelievable run for the Alabama women's team. So, yeah, those are just some of the moments from that. We're going to go back to the men's game. We have some really great matchups. We're recording this now. Of course, our podcast will have this released tomorrow, so games will be underway on Thursday. But tomorrow, we got some really good games, Patrick, and I kind of want to gauge your interest in all of these. I guess we can start with Alabama. And Alabama's got a game. I think they're going to start the party off tomorrow. They're taking on BYU. We mentioned this offline. Heck, the first team to 104 may win it.
Yeah,
legitimately. Who's gonna get some stops? Who's gonna shoot the basketball well? And who will make their way to the Elite Eight?
Well, I mean, Alabama's defense, we've nagged on them all year because they've been not great. But this last month of the season, they've stepped it up quite a bit. Listen, Alabama, if the offense is there and they're hitting threes and having their way, no one's really been able to stop them.
No.
So the thing that I just worry about, though, with them, again, I know they've been better on defense, but on that end of the court, it's not all the way there for me. Now, I do think they beat BYU.
Okay.
But if you're an Alabama fan, you want this team to go to the Final Four. And if they beat BYU, there's going to be a buzzsaw in the Duke Blue Devils waiting for them in the Elite Eight. And I don't know about that matchup.
I had a Alabama fan discuss this with me yesterday, and listen, you get to Elite Eight. If you are in this weekend, you are a quality basketball team.
Yeah, no doubt.
You get to Elite Eight, you're a quality basketball team. I think Alabama is more than equipped enough to be able to beat Duke. I just believe that there are some other teams in the field right now that have more tools in the toolbox than quote-unquote Alabama. It's no knock against Alabama, because Alabama, we know they may be the most prolific scoring team, not only in the country, but obviously in the field right now. And they have a myriad of ways to still be able to win the game and beat BYU. But I'm not going to go off on their ledge and say that Alabama has no shot. I know you hadn't said that, but Alabama has no shot, or they can't beat Duke if Duke makes it there against Arizona. I think they very well can. I think they can win the national championship. Like I told you, I think Auburn can win the national championship. I will say that the defense has improved. I think the big thing for me is just the emergence of some of the guys that we've been kind of waiting on this year, or we've seen highs and lows from. Cliff Amore and Diabate. Grant with his knee, I didn't know what to expect coming into last weekend. It was a tight contest with Robert Morris. Then they kind of had their way with St. Mary's, but he's been playing well. But I go back to all of those kind of the others, as I like to say, have played well in spite of, Mark, who has been outstanding all year, first team All-American, has dipped a little bit from the standpoint of, I say this all the time, hate to tell anyone, break this to you, just because you're young doesn't mean you don't get tired. And I think that, he's just in a little bit of a wall, a little bit of a slum right now. But you want to see all of the other pieces and the others kind of come about to be able to get you to a point where it's an Elite Eight or a Final Four or national championship, and all the pieces come together.
And they have elite coaching.
Elite coach
is an elite coach.
Nate Oates is an unbelievable coach, man. And listen, I think any Alabama Crimson Tide basketball fan that has had to, live through, some lean years or not so lean years, great players, but never been able to see those players flourish in the postseason, the whole nine. I mean, you're just loving this. I don't think anybody in their wildest dreams would have ever thought that Alabama would be a number 1 overall seed or reach these many consecutive Sweet 16s in the whole nine. Even with Coach Whip Sanderson, coaching on the sideline, and moderate success with Anthony Graham, moderate success with Avery Johnson. But I mean, I think that Nate Oates is just kind of taking it over the top. I think the big key for me in this BYU Alabama game is how much can Cliff Amore and the guys up front be able to establish some sort, it doesn't have to be dominance, but establishing your presence on the floor. I honestly think this game is more conducive to Alabama and their bigs because of, to me, their fluidity as far as running rim to rim, baseline to baseline, block to block, and be able to get a lot of putback. They're really good in high ball screens, offensive rebounds off of misses. I think that's the advantage for Alabama to be able to get maybe some second chance points. Make sure when you get a chance, if you watch the game and they kind of mention the game at the half, it'll kind of tell you a little bit of what this looks like if you see those second chance points and the offensive rebounds and the points in the paint. I think that's the difference there. I like Alabama to win the game. I'm not saying that BYU can't win it. I think they're fantastic. Saunders is great there for BYU. They are more than equipped to go there. A lot of fans of the college game were picking BYU was a trendy pick to get to this point and an Elite Eight. So we shall see what this program does for sure coming up tomorrow. We also have we saw the Maryland game with the Crab Five, as they call them, up in College Park, Maryland, and the Terrapins, and Derek Queen hitting that go-ahead bucket at the buzzer over Colorado State to advance to this week.
I don't even care if he traveled, by the way. Not to cut you off. I don't care.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Did it look as blatant of a travel in real time until you watched it back, or were you like when you saw it, like, oh, yeah, he definitely traveled? I don't really travel.
I don't think. I mean, maybe I watch too much NBA, but like that's every night in the association. I don't know.
There's a couple of rules in college basketball that
it just comes down to my point. Like I say all the time, like we can never have good things. Like we get a buzzer beater, and then immediately people take to Twitter and like he traveled.
Yeah,
I don't care though.
I don't care. Well, the rules. Okay,
yeah, fine.
That's fine. Like how blatant was the walk? Let's just be real. Like if it was a walk, like no, you did not really look and immediately say no. I mean, in the NBA that would have been perfectly fine. Nevertheless, Maryland's going to take on the Florida Gators. Any vulnerability, if I can get that out.
We got it. Get there.
Thank you. Fantastic. Appreciate it. I need a Celsius right now. Y'all want sponsors? Shout out to us. Did you see anything in the armor? Any cracks from Florida against UConn, or was it just a matchup that proved to be the biggest issue there last week?
I think it was just a matchup.
Yep.
I mean, if you look at the 1-8, that was the toughest 1-8 that anybody had.
You sure in the hell didn't want to play that 8.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
So, I think with Florida, like, there were some things that Hurley and the Huskies were doing that kind of exposed them, especially offensively. They were kind of getting their shot whenever. Florida, it just came down to you had the best player on the court, Walter Clayton Jr. And sometimes that's what has to happen, right?
When you watch sports, everyone always wants to know, man, how did something happen? And there was a moment in that game last Sunday in that second round matchup. For those that remember that, any UConn fans that are watching or listening to this podcast, UConn's up 2. They get a turnover going the other way. They turn it over. Walter Clay Jr. comes down and hits a 3 to go a 1. Come back down the floor. Empty possession. He comes back down the floor. Another 3. 5-0 run. Essentially, that's the ball game. Had UConn scored, we may be looking at a different outcome here, right?
Yeah.
But those are the things that, what makes the NCAA tournament great. That's what makes competitive, sports awesome, because it's moments like that in small instances that can basically turn the tide of a matchup or a game. And UConn, their actions in the half court, when we say actions, just plays in the half court, were so magnificent. And Coach Golden does an amazing job as well with his actions on the floor. But at the end of the day, Coach Golden for Florida was basically, I got to this point, and if I get to the Elite Eight, a Final Four, national championship, Walter Clayton Jr., I'm going to put the ball in my main guy's hands, and I need for you to make a play when I really needed it most. And he came up away with 6 points in a matter of a minute 15. That ultimately proved to be the difference.
A lot of times it's players, not plays, right?
Players, not plays, man. And that was a for sure player moment. You got Arkansas and Texas Tech. Now, you mentioned, and we discussed this a couple of weeks ago with Arkansas in the SEC tournament, it's a team that can make a run. And I thought that they could make a run in the SEC tournament. I thought that they could make a run in the NCAA tournament just because they got players, right? Like,
yeah.
At the end of the day, players are players. They got Texas Tech. Not a lot of people outside of really diehard hoop heads know a lot about Texas Tech, but they're a darn good program. Toppin is crazy for Texas Tech. He's a pro. Does Texas Tech have enough to withstand a team that maybe have been continuously trying to figure it out, as Coach Calipari mentioned it a couple of weeks ago, in a dark place, everyone in a dark place together have kind of come out of that? Does Arkansas come in with supreme confidence and run them out of there? You know what I mean? Or is this another nip and tuck game, and if you're Texas Tech, you're trying to find a way to kind of withstand their ultimate runs because the game is close down the stretch?
I think the game will be close. Arkansas has a knack to just drag you down into the mud whenever they play you. The biggest difference between Texas Tech and St. John's, though, is that Texas Tech can shoot the basketball. St. John's could not shoot. They couldn't. They were a terrible three-point shooting team throughout the season. It turned around and it bit them in the butt in the postseason here. Texas Tech is shooting 38% from three this year. So, like, if they hit 12 threes, Texas Tech's going to win the game. And Arkansas doesn't have that much offensively. Now, where Arkansas can get you, elite athleticism. Transition. Everybody plays hard.
Yep.
So, and a lot of times, effort can take you a long way. It's taken Arkansas to the Sweet 16.
It is.
I just don't know if they're going to have enough firepower to continue down this stretch. I think it ends here for them.
Here's what I know can't happen for this game to be competitive for Arkansas. You cannot just make 2 threes.
No, you'll get beat by 20. This will be the blowout game.
It just can't happen. In an ideal world, I think Coach Cal and his staff would tell you, in an ideal world, 6 to 8. If you can get those, you're feeling pretty good. Can't hit 2. Can't do it, dog. I think they were 2 for 11 or something like that. You just can't hit 2. They win that game because Rick Pitino, who stressed it all year, unfortunately not the best shooting team from distance, and that bit them. That was legitimately their only Achilles heel in the whole facet of what they brought to the table as a 2 seed in St. John's, and why everyone was so high on them. But credit to Coach Cal. Man, that's tough for me to think. I could almost see an out-of-body experience for Coach Cal and his team, in the sense of, man, they come out and they just shoot 48, 51% from the field and a blistering 60-some% from 3, right?
Yeah.
Question is, can you hold on?
Yeah.
And I don't know if they can hold on or not. If I had to pick someone, I'll give the slight edge to Texas Tech. I mean, in the slightest of slight, because I believe Arkansas is more than capable of reaching the Elite Eight. But, no, this is going to be a tight game. You know what? I'm gonna reverse my pick. I think Arkansas wins the game. The only reason why I think they're going to win the game, we say this with St. John's, because St. John's hadn't shot the ball well this year. I mean, at least just for one game, they shoot the ball, specifically really well from distance. They're able to manufacture some offense. And then we all know that, transition, defense into offense, they do that at an exceptional high rate with so many unbelievable athletes and so many just energetic, frenetic pace type guys. So, yeah, I'm going to give the edge to Arkansas to reach the Elite Eight. So I'll go on the edge there, a proverbial ledge, and say that the Hogs, Razorback, Pig Suey, comes away with a Sweet 16 victory.
Who you like it between Ole Miss and Michigan State? Ole Miss a little bit. Not that it was. I guess what shocked me about the Ole Miss game is how they won 91-78.
They did.
It wasn't like it was relatively close. They just shot the lights out of the ball.
But what does that tell you, though, with that Tommy Izzo team, though? See, that's why it's, if Michigan State has the opportunity to beat Auburn and Auburn takes care of business against Michigan and they play each other I think most people had Michigan State and or Auburn in that Elite Eight. The one thing about Michigan State that scares you is because they have so many versatile guys that can be able to adapt and play any type of style. So you saw the 90-some points, so you know they can do that.
Yeah.
We know they can play it if it's the first to 55, and we know they can play it if it's first to 60. Remember, the same Maryland team that's in the Sweet 16, Maryland was dead to rights at home in College Park, Maryland, and Michigan State hit basically a half-court shot to win it. So we've seen the ebbs and flows of this Michigan State team, but they're just playing so well at the right time, especially from the first half of the year, probably the end of the first quarter of the year till now. They just have they can get it from so many different levels. They play really solid defense, versatile bigs, guys that can run. We know what Colin Carr has done. He's been outstanding. Also, when you get to the league, young man, go ahead and get into the dunk contest. Just go ahead and do it. You ain't got. I'm talking about even if you want to do it when you get drafted, just put on your socials and stuff. Just be like, I will be in the NBA Slam Dunk Contest year one. You want to talk about somebody that will bring excitement back to the Slam Dunk Contest when he gets, man, jumping bean. I remember seeing a video of him when he was in high school, and I was like, what is this? Mutant, an exceptional basketball player, and has had one heck of a first two games in the NCAA tournament. So we'll see if he's able to continue that trend with Michigan State. But yeah, I like Michigan State. But man, listen, Chris Beard has done a magnificent job with Ole Miss. Padula and those guys have been really fun to watch. I think that this sounds crazy because it has. I'm not saying it doesn't have anything to do with on the floor, but we don't really want to talk about these types of things when we're talking about the actual playing on the floor, scoring points, rebounds, and having more points than the other team. Chris Beard has had to get that program and set players to the standpoint of believing they could be at this moment, believing Mississippi State and Oxford, Mississippi can reach an Elite Eight, believing they can get to a Final Four. And I think a lot of that has to do with coach, and I think a lot of it has to do with his staff and players being able to see tangible evidence that, see, this is what can happen if all of the kind of chips fall into place for us. I think this may be the best game to me. I mean, nip and tuck all the way down the stretch. This may be the game of the weekend for sure because they're so evenly matched. Physicality is going to play a factor, a toughness, all of the things that you want in a high profile game. I think this is what it'll give you. I wouldn't be surprised if this is the game. But man, I don't. You know what? I'm just trying to think off the top of my head, Patrick. I don't know if I can. Who would I pick to win this game? I have Michigan State in the bracket. I'll go with Michigan State. Slight edge. I think this is another tight game, though. I just will be utterly shocked if we have any blowouts. I just will in this weekend.
Yeah. We got to get to one last break.
Okay.
And then when we come back, we will hit on the Auburn Tigers.
We done paid a lot of bills today.
We got to keep on paying them.
You ain't lying.
We ain't got no money.
I know I ain't got none.
So Auburn Tigers and Tennessee Volunteers back after the break.
Final segment of Take After Take. Producer Pat, Carl Prather here, discussing the NCAA men's and women's basketball tournaments, going over the matchups, the Sweet 16, the Elite Eight, as we head into a regional weekend this weekend across men's and women's college basketball. We discussed a couple of teams early on in our last segment, exclusively Alabama in that. They're going to play on Thursday. The Auburn Tigers, though, number one overall seed in this year's NCAA men's tournament out of the South region, will be in action on Friday night. They got the late game, man. I think they did tip off at 8:39 Central.
That's the only thing about this weekend that really messed me up. These games were late. I'm an old man.
Hey, they've always been that way.
It's too late.
Always been that way.
I'd rather start them at 9 o'clock in the morning.
P, think about this. When I was growing up, when I was a wee lad, Eastern time kid, some of these games that were like some of these overtime, man, there'd be games going on till 12:30, 1 o'clock. And I'm sitting over here trying to nod and like watch them like that. So you're talking about a 9:39 tip. That's if all things go according to plan and games end in regulation.
Yeah.
What happens if the previous like it may be 10 o'clock before they get on the floor. So
yeah.
Y'all get y'all's coffee. Whatever else you need, I'm just gonna leave it at that. Y'all adults, y'all know what to do. Do whatever y'all want to do. Do it responsibly. But yeah, you may want to get you a nice pot of coffee or your finest caffeinated drink to be able to stay up on a Friday night and watch the Tigers. They are in action, as I mentioned, on Friday. Your thoughts on their matchup against the Michigan Wolverines, who I don't know if anyone picked Michigan to make it this far. I had them in my bracket to reach the Sweet 16 and face Auburn because of Wolf, and I trust in Dusty May relative to the matchups that they had. But your thoughts initially when you see this, is this a tight game? Do you think this is one of a potential blowout game? What do you think?
I don't think it's a blowout. I'm with you. I don't think many of these games are going to be – I don't know if any of them is going to be blowouts. Yeah. The thing about this game is just can Auburn stop the Michigan front court? Can they stop the 2 7-footers? If they can, they're going to win the game. If they can't, they'll lose. Sometimes it's as simple as that. Auburn has the edge in the backcourt, I think. I don't even think it's really close. I think the backcourt of Auburn is superior to Michigan, but Michigan has 2 7-footers. And Janai Broome doesn't look entirely healthy. I mean, he is looking, no disrespect to him, but it's looking bad out there. He's not been scoring the basketball and things like that. So, but if you're Auburn, if you're a Tiger fan, Pettiford's stepping up. Denver Jones stepped up. So some of these other guys. Yeah, I mean, he got that and one. They needed it in that game against Creighton. I still like the Auburn Tigers. I think I've come around. I think in my bracket I had them losing to Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
I think the role players of Auburn have stepped up enough to where I like them going forward. And then, in the Elite Eight, if they play Michigan State or an Ole Miss, I think if you're a Tiger fan, you'd rather play Ole Miss than Michigan State.
Sure.
I think Michigan State gives you too many problems.
Sure.
But no, I like the Tigers. It's just going to come down to if they let those 2 7-footers from Michigan kind of go off.
I think that some of your unsung or the others, as we like to say, not named, Todd Pettiford or Janai Broome or Chad Baker-Mazara, will step up. And I think most notably it'll be Chaney Johnson. I think Chaney Johnson will be the deciding factor in this contest because of the quality minutes that he will give to Bruce Pearl, Stephen Pearl, and the rest of that staff this weekend. I think because they have those 2 7-footers there, I think that the versatility of Chaney and him having a really good game as far as to be able to shoot the ball from distance, be able to put the ball on the hardwood there, be able to manufacture some offense in and around the paint area. I think he's going to be kind of the deciding X factor. And I also think that Janai will have a really, really good game as well. I think ultimately for me, it goes back to what we were discussing about Auburn. There's this long notion that because they lost 3 or 4, that something was wrong with them. I just think that they were physically tired. I am interested to see their demeanor as they come out this Friday. I think at the end of this season, whether they cut down the nets or they lose, I would love to candidly talk to Coach Pearl just to ask him, how did his team, as we got toward the end of the regular season into March Madness and into the postseason, how much did the expectation of being the number 1 overall seed in a team that everyone for 3/4 of the year believed was the best team in all of college basketball weighed on this team as we got down to the quote-unquote nitty-gritty of the college basketball season when people are expecting you to reach the Final Four. I picked them to reach the Final Four in my bracket. I believe that they are the elite of the elite. I believe that they are more than capable of winning the national championship because they have so many different ways and variations of being able to get the job done. And I think that'll be the case on Friday. I think that you'll see the bigs for Auburn have an exceptional game. And I think it's going to be a joint effort. And it should be a joint effort because you're deep, you have depth, and you're able to get it done. I think Dylan Cardwell will have a big game as well. And I also believe that alongside Dylan and Chaney and Janai, I think that'll be more than enough for them to be able to get the job done from a post standpoint. And then, of course, the guards. I think Todd Pettiford's been outstanding. Denver Jones, who's from North Alabama, he's been great. And I think Chad Baker-Mazar has a really good game as well. I just think that I think Auburn fans will travel and make the trek over to Atlanta. I think it'll be a pro-Auburn crowd. And I think they win this game comfortably. I would be surprised if they blow this team out. But could you be surprised if it's 14-2 to start the game?
No.
So I just think that Michigan will show, quote unquote, their class as a quality program under head coach Dusty May. But I think Auburn wins this game comfortably, and they head to the Elite Eight, one game away from San Antonio and the Final Four. Tennessee Volunteers, another team of interest here in our area, preparing for part 3 of their matchups with the Kentucky Wildcats. I picked Tennessee to go to the Final Four. I did not think that Kentucky was going to get to the Sweet 16. I thought they'd lose to Illinois. Illinois is just once again struggling to shoot the basketball. That's been the story for their group this season after watching them a number of times. It's kind of one of those things in your head. You're like, man, I think they can kind of get it going. And ultimately, they are what they are. Still doesn't negate the fact they have an excellent head coach and brighter days ahead for the Illini. But, man, let's give a credit to Mark Pope, man. Listen, Mark Pope can coach. All we know is that from a tactical standpoint, the guy understands time, situation, how to be able to put his players in the best possible position. So credit to him. We'll know what Kentucky is going to be, if they're going to be Kentucky, as we've all been accustomed to as the preeminent program in college basketball, a blue blood program, if they're being able to sustain the heights of what Coach Calipari was able to do with talent, now marrying that with X and O's. But, man, I've said this since the conference tournament. We discussed this. Patrick, I just think Rick Barnes in this group is destined, man. I think they're going to go to their first Final Four. I do. I really do. I think they're going to beat Kentucky, and I think they're going to beat Houston. No small feat or small task there to be able to do those things, because Kentucky's more than equipped to go to the Final Four and more equipped to win a national championship. But I like Tennessee because of playmakers and guys that can be able to get buckets in a hurry. And Chaz Lanier is shown that you give that young man a few feet, he can knock some buckets down there. Zakai Ziegler, they got a proven veteran guard that can kind of carry the day a little bit. Igor there, their stretch forward / center, has been great as well. I just think the team's been great. They play well, and I think they're going to play well. And, man, there has to be something to say. Man, you're playing the team for the third time?
Yeah.
Come on, man. Like, that's neutral floor. It's
whoever loses this game, the fan base is going to be decimated because it's going against happening to your rival.
Yeah, man, but man, 3 times, like,
yeah.
What are the odds that you're going to face a team three the third time you're facing them in a one-off? Like, that's tough. Yeah, everyone knows everything about it. Like, it's now about players making plays, and I just keep saying I don't know what Kentucky is health-wise. I mean, they're just finding a way. You know, they can't afford any type of injury. So I like Tennessee in that game as well.
And with that, what else we have to talk about? We wrapping up? Is that it?
Hey, man, what was I about to – I was going to ask you something. Had a discussion about cereal. Breakfast cereals.
Breakfast cereal. Okay.
So my wife, she'll eat cereal from. I mean, when we're not eating. My kid eats Lucky Charms like it's going out of style. I think he just wants the marshmallows like any other kid does. He don't want to eat the rest of the marshmallow, the candy or the cereal. Scale of 1 to 10. I just need that. I'm not even gonna go through a rating of cereals. Scale of 1 to 10. Frosted Flakes.
7.
You ought to be ashamed of yourself.
Why?
Bro, that's a 10 cereal, dog.
Frosted Flakes. It's a solid 7.
Nothing in it. It's just a.
That's the problem. That's
sugar,
why it's a 7.
It's just sugar and a cornflake. And man, you put some milk on that thing, that crunch.
They're good. They're good.
Elite.
They're good. Lucky
Tried and
Charms
true.
is where it's at. That's the 10.
I want to say something about Lucky Charms. Outside of my kid, back when he was a toddler, and I'm, and then able to have teeth and eat cereal, and him shoving them in my face. I've never had Lucky Charms. I didn't have any desire to eat Lucky Charms. My cereals were Frosted Flakes, Fruit Loops,
Fruit Loops are good. That's an 8.
Honey Nut Cheerios.
That's
Love
4.
I can rock with the regular Cheerios. If you can give me half a cup of sugar, I can just dump it in there and mix it all in the milk and stuff. Rice Krispies, same way. But I never was a very diverse cereal eater. I never had Apple Jacks before. Oh, Cinnamon Toast Crunch too. Cinnamon Toast Crunch has got to be up. It's got to be 9, 10.
I'm not a huge Cinnamon Toast Crunch fan.
See that?
Everyone in my
trust you.
family
I knew I
is.
couldn't trust you.
I would put Cinnamon Toast Crunch at like
I couldn't trust you
a 3.
the day I saw you. That's why you could. What cereal you eat?
I don't eat a lot of cereal, but
I don't either. I'm just saying when you were a kid, like think
if
about
I
it in your
do,
head.
it was when I was a kid we were broke, so I remember like Circus O's from like
Circus O's straight?
Save a Lot.
Yeah.
They're like the little knockoff Fruit Loops. They were fine. No, but if I'm getting cereal for myself, I'm getting Lucky Charms or.
What is it about Lucky Charms? Like, why do you want?
It's the marshmallows.
Fam, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
With your milk, why do you want those big, gigantic pieces of sugar in your cereal? I just feel like there's a lot going on in there for me.
Yeah, that's the way it's supposed to be. It's
Bruh.
cereal.
But no. It's supposed to be good, but like you're eating these pieces of like regular cereal, and then all of a sudden, boom, there's a
marshmallow. Yeah, it's a Lucky
man.
Charm surprise.
What about Cocoa Puffs?
Cocoa
never
Puffs
had
are
those
also
before.
a solid 8.
Never
They're a
had
solid
those.
8.
Nah, never had those.
At the bottom would be things like Frosted Mini Wheats,
I like
regular Cheerios, Rice Krispies.
Yeah, but I gotta add like I like Frosted Mini Wheats. I could just eat those by themselves.
No, they're awful.
They're not awful.
Awful.
They're not awful.
Awful. Tricks, Apple Jacks.
Never had any of those, dog.
Well, if you get the Kelsey mix, Travis Kelsey, Jason Kelsey.
Kelsey's got Apple Jacks.
Well, it's all mixed into one big thing. You can see it at Walmart. It's like I forget what they are,
Nah,
but they're
player.
just all together,
Nah,
so you can
player.
have a bunch of different flavors at one time.
I just think Frosted Flakes. Man, I had so, and then when I eat my Frosted Flakes, if I'm really acting a fool, so Thursday, the first round of the tournament, it's just a tradition. If I'm not traveling for said teams, Patrick, I swear this bowl. I'm talking about like you can hold it like a boulder. You ever watch those strongman competitions like at 12 and 11 o'clock at night and them guys carrying them big boulders? That's how you carry my bowl. And I'm talking about like it looked like a little mini Mount Everest. I just had it all the way up to the brim. Now I had me a little sugar stroke out probably about 12 o'clock, 12:45 before I had to eat something else to eat.
Yeah.
But other than that, it was worth it. It was worth it. Because Frosted Flakes, now let me tell you something. Tony the Tiger, man, you near and dear to my heart, dog. That's the best cereal, bar none, in the world. You're not gonna tell me any different. Now, there's some other good cereals. I asked that because my wife looked at me and she was like, I don't think she's a big fan of fries. She'll eat them, but she's like,
Yeah.
the only cereal we have in our house is Lucky Charms, and the only reason why I have them is for our kid. He likes them dry. He'll eat them with milk a little bit, but I specifically got Frosted Flakes last week just to eat Frosted Flakes on Thursday and Friday, and they came in the regular size boxes, and I know there's nothing else. But I literally think I ate both of those boxes in a matter of 48 hours. That's a darn shame.
That's yeah.
I ain't mad at it,
I don't
though.
know if I would have told people that.
Nah, that's all right. That's all right. I'll tell you what. Look, my stomach felt good. I was ready to rock for the first afternoon session of the game. Now I probably nodded out for a hot second after I ate them for about the second set of games. Had me a little sugar stroke out, but it was worth it. I'll do it again next year. I probably won't have Frosted Flakes since then.
You go 365 days.
Probably,
Frosted
I'm probably
Flakes?
gonna. Yeah, I probably not gonna eat Frosted Flakes. I mean, bro, like what? We eggs people and stuff now. Eggs and bacon and stuff, some good stuff.
I do a little Greek yogurt with some protein powder.
Yeah,
Makes
I
it up
do
to
that.
breakfast.
I do that. I do that as well. That's what I'm saying. We're like back when we were kids, we got better options and stuff, or allegedly better options.
Yeah. All right.
That's all we got.
That's it. You want to wrap us up? Take us home here?
Like, subscribe, take after take. Our podcast is live and available on Apple iTunes or Google Play Store, or where podcasts are available each and every Thursday. As I mentioned, we're trying to grow this thing. We'll be with you live every Wednesday for the most part, and we're just kind of gearing up toward the summer, and more importantly, as we get ready for the college football season, as teams are in spring practice right now. So rate us, comment on where podcasts are available for sure. Continue to follow our stream as well. We'll continue to kind of gain some traction in that as well. But we cool if it's just one of 11 people. Y'all could be just the 11th chosen one. We'll shout y'all out if y'all keep just being tried and true with the 11. I think we're gonna get some more people though, man.
I think we'll get some more.
I know. Producer, still got that Titans hat on. We're going to talk about them next week.
Ooh, yeah.
Because I know you look.
I've been watching Cam Ward highlights. I'm in.
He's excited now. And then y'all going to take one of these cold offensive linemen, the first pick, and then I'm going to fall out laughing.
Nope, it's turning weird. The tides are changing in Nashville.
Now we've just seen the light. Now we just seen the light.
Hallelujah.
Here you go. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. For producer Pat, I'm Carl Prather. Take after take, folks. We'll see you back here next week.